Hello, it's me. Number 4, the Menendez brothers. On August 13th, 1989, in the affluent suburb of Beverly Hills, a 911 call came in reporting a shooting at the Menendez family home. When police arrived, they found the bodies of Jose and Kitty Menendez lying dead in the living room of their mansion. The series of events that led to the murder began years before the actual crime. He was often involved in shady business dealings and was even arrested once for selling counterfeit merchandise. By the time Lyle and Eric were teenagers, their father was a millionaire. But despite their father's success, Lyle and Eric knew that he wasn't a good man. They would make anonymous phone calls and tell him that his house was on fire. They wanted to get back at their father, but they knew that they couldn't do it on their own, so they reached out to their mother's boyfriend, who was a former cop. He agreed to help them and came up with the idea of killing their father. There are several Netflix documentaries about the case, and a TikTok movement has sprung up in support of the brothers. Some people believe that the brothers were right to kill their father and that they should be pardoned. A group of young people led by the mysterious Charles Manson carried out a series of brutal murders in 1969. Who were these killers, and why did they do what they did? To find out, click on the video on screen now. Others believe that the brothers are simply murderers who deserve to die in prison. The brothers were hesitant at first, but their anger and resentment were too strong to overcome. And so they agreed to go ahead with the plan. Let me know your thoughts below. They also spread rumors about him in the neighborhood and made sure that everyone knew about his affair. But Jose was not one to take this lying down. When they were sure that they could hit their target, they set a date for the murder. On the day of the murder, Lyle and Eric went to their father's house and waited until he was alone. Then they kicked in the door and shot him to death. They didn't stop there, though. They also killed Jose's girlfriend and their mother's boyfriend. Then they took out life insurance policies on their parents for $200,000 each and fled to Mexico. He hired a private investigator to follow his sons and see what they were up to. Lyle and Eric were tracked down and returned to the U.S., where they were tried for murder. During the trial, it was revealed that the brothers had been abused by their father, and that he had even tried to recruit them into his criminal activities. The brothers testified in their own defense and told the jury that they had acted in self-defense. However, the jury found them guilty on both counts, and they were sentenced to life in prison without parole. And when he found out about the phone calls, he went to the police. Soon, Lyle and Eric were arrested for harassment and spent a night in jail. Jose was furious and told the boys that he would never forgive them. They had seen him argue with their mother and mistreat other people. They didn't want to be like him, so they decided to make something of themselves. Lyle went to college and Eric joined the Marines. Both brothers were determined to succeed and make their mother proud. In addition, he had a volatile temper and would often yell and scream at his wife and sons. And although Kitty tried her best to make the house a happy place to grow up, she couldn't help but worry about the effect of her husband's behavior on the boys. One day, when Lyle was just 6 years old, Jose brought him along on one of his business deals. They were driving down a dark street when suddenly a group of men jumped out from behind some bushes and attacked them. Jose fought back, but he and Lyle were both beaten badly and ended up in the hospital. This was a turning point for Lyle. He realized that his father, who was supposed to protect him, was not always able to do so. He also saw firsthand the dangers of the world and decided that he needed to be strong and capable if he wanted to survive. From that day on, he dedicated himself to working hard and becoming successful. He excelled in school, was active in sports, and was even elected class president in high school. All the while, he kept a close eye on his younger brother, Eric, and made sure he didn't make the same mistakes he did. Jose Menendez was born in Cuba in 1937 and came from humble beginnings. His father was a taxi driver and his mother a seamstress. But Jose was ambitious and wanted more out of life. Jose and Kitty had always had a rocky marriage, but it quickly fell apart after Eric joined the Marines. Jose began to have an affair with a young woman named Anna, and soon moved her into the family home. Kitty was devastated and eventually filed for divorce. She took Lyle and Eric with her and moved into a small apartment. Over time, though, the boys' feelings of anger and resentment towards their father only grew. They saw how he was treating their mother and decided that he had to be punished. So when he was just 23, he left Cuba and moved to the United States. There he met a beautiful young woman named Catalina, or Kitty, who worked as a legal secretary. They married and settled in New Jersey, where Jose started a small import-export business. Meanwhile, Kitty gave birth to two boys, Lyle and Eric. And as the boys grew older, it became clear that they were bright and handsome, and their father doted on them, buying them expensive toys and clothes and sending them to private school. However, he was also strict and expected them to follow his rules. He demanded that they keep up good grades and be respectful to elders. And he also made sure that they knew the importance of hard work. If you don't work hard, he told them, you won't succeed in life. And so the boys grew up with a strong sense of ambition and drive. Jose had been shot 7 times and Kitty 5. Their sons, Lyle and Eric, called the police. They were arrested immediately. A shotgun was found near the body with Lyle's fingerprints all over it. And to top it all off, just 1 month earlier, brothers had taken out life insurance policies on their parents for $200,000 each. At first, they tried to claim that 2 intruders had broken into the house and murdered their parents during a botched robbery. But as time went on, it became clear that they were not telling the truth. Eventually, Lyle confessed to the crime. He claimed self-defense, saying that he and his brother had killed their parents in a fit of passion after years of sexual abuse. It was one of the most sensational trials of the 1990s and raised important questions about privilege, power, and the justice system. So what is the real story behind the Menendez brothers? However, not everything was perfect in the Menendez family. Though Jose loved his sons very much, he was not always a good role model. Meanwhile, Jose continued to build his business empire, started a car dealership, and then expanded into real estate. But while Lyle and Eric were away, things started to go wrong. In the beginning, they just played pranks on their father. It was at this point that the brothers decided that they needed to come up with a better plan. They bought a shotgun and took turns practicing on targets. When the police found out that the brothers had taken out life insurance on their parents, they immediately became suspects. Even today, the brothers remain in prison. However, they have become somewhat of a pop culture phenomenon. What do you think? Were the Menendez brothers right to kill their father? Or were they just murderers who got away with murder? Now it's time to look at another crazy case. The Manson family murders. And as always, thank you for watching.